there was a press conference, I guess, after the BIU had its discussions with one of our members concerning what transpired over the weekend. Just updating the membership on, of course, the court action that was taken yesterday by an employer, getting an injunction against the full representation of the BIU. And certainly after that, update the members then on the march through the city of Hamilton via the Hamilton Dock, because we want to let the poor workers division know, the poor workers division of the BIU know that we were with them, they were with us, even though they couldn't be with us because of the injunction. We then heard word that the government was going to be having a press conference at Global House, and we stopped outside Global House for at least a half hour, 45 minutes to wait to see what was going to be the outcome of the press conference. We understood the press conference didn't last for that long. I made a comment that it didn't seem like it lasts for any long period of time. They realized that the reporters weren't allowed to ask any questions. Interesting. How do you have a press conference of this magnitude and not allow one question to be asked? Media should be wondering. Public should be wondering. What has the government got to hide? I see they put something out, they sent something out, well, I think you've got it, maybe you got that, and you may have got this from the party chairman. So they're putting out communications. But I was certainly hoping that you would have an opportunity to at least ask the Minister of Labor that very important question. Even though you have a letter from the BIU president recommending, on behalf of the General Counsel recommending that you should step down if you don't change the act, what's with it that you can return to him? That is a very important question that I thought the media should want to ask the minister. But I guess if the government is not going to choose to allow you to ask any questions, they remind me of someone else who's probably not in Bermuda, but in another party, probably us press conferences, but don't have any questions to answer. So he just comes and says what he needs to say, and then he leaves the room. So here's what I understood from the press conference, basically was that the deputy premier made it clear the principle on which we are standing on is the right one. I was inside trying to listen to a whole lot more of the press release, and he claims that the government is interested in protecting the rights of all workers. Progressive Labour Party, understanding that you might want to consider the protection of rights, but are you protecting the rights of the unorganized and not the organized? Certainly that's been the BIU's position. Interesting, because the minister would have you believe that any worker within a easy shop has the right to participate in a cancellation or certification ballot under section 57(1). You should be aware that the application for certification is made under section 41. You should also be aware, and I said this in the meeting before, you should be aware of section 57. Section 57(1) speaks about the cancellation of that ballot. There is a difference. If you go to the communities of interest under the application, you will see on number 1, on number 2, on number 3, on number 4, I'm sorry, go under section 43 of the Act, the actual bargaining unit. And those 4 things you should take into consideration is A, community of interest of workers in the proposed bargaining unit; B, the nature and scope of the duties of those workers; C, the view of the employer and the union as the purpose of the bargaining unit; and D, the historical development, if any, of a collective bargaining in the undertaking. More important, look what 57 says. and it's very important to pay attention to number C. So B, A is pretty much the same. Cumulative interest of the workers in the existing unit. So we're talking about the existing unit. Pay attention now, because section 57.1 refers to in the first line, the worker in the bargaining unit, the existing unit. Also in A, look at what it says in B, the nature and scope and duties of those workers. Look at what happens to C. Pay attention, because this is talking about cancellation. The views of the employer and the union as to any changes that ought to be made in the existing bargaining unit. See what they're saying now? The union employer should sit down and have a conversation as to whether or not the existing bargaining unit should change. The BIU is contending that even though everyone was allowed to vote on a ballot for certification and a ballot for decertification, non-union members should not be allowed to vote. This is as much as should happen. And the minister's hanging this hat on, whatever happens at certification, is going to happen at decertification. And we said it's wrong, the act clearly says it's wrong. Says it's wrong. The minister goes on in his press statement to say that we have met the BIU on several occasions since this process started. That should be clear what you consider several occasions. We know that the BPSU and BIU had a joint press conference on December 10th. We know that the bill went to House on December 11th. We know that the minister met with the BIU and the BPSU on December 11th at 12:30, and the minister promised the unions by January or February will come up with some guidelines. So think about it. He presented those guidelines the first or second week of February. That's one time he met the BIU. What was the next time he met the BIU? Next time he met the BIU was May the 6th. No, correction. Next time we met the BIU was May the 12th. That was the next time the minister met the BIU, May 12th. Why? Because the documents that the BIU and the BPSU gave to the minister on March the 30th, recommendations to the act, took the minister until May 6th to get back to us on response to that document. March 30th, May 6th, all at 8, and about a week or so, about a week in May. And we sent it on March 30th. So we had to meet with the minister on May 12th. So we had one meeting with him, and he presented his documentation to us in February. We have another meeting in May. There's only 2 meetings for him, the minister, about this issue. Because we had the meeting on May 12th, we disagreed, he disagreed with our proposed amendments, and based on that, the meeting finished very abruptly. It was over. We then had a meeting with the minister and the premier on the 19th of May with the BPSU on the Zoom call. So what these several meetings, I know the minister is making reference to several meetings. No compromise on the BIU's position. I don't know how many times we can see it, how many different ways you can see it. I have said to the media, I've said to the members, the meeting that we had, the premier and the minister of labor on June 7th, that Monday. They called the premier right after that meeting finished, in front of the general secretary, Sister Ronnie Burgess, and one other person, that the premier of the country knew that the government, the general council rejected the government's position that they have. Based on that, they are preparing to allow a worker in a bargaining unit who's contributing 100%, they have a right to vote on a ballot for decertification. We also said that those members in the bargaining unit who contribute 50% will not have a right to vote. I said, please explain it to the minister. We said it in a number of press conferences. So for the minister to say that there's no compromise on the BI's position, he's wrong. He is absolutely wrong. We've always said that our position in 1998 was that a worker in a bargaining, rather they pay 100% contribution or 50% contribution, they will not have a right to vote. That's in 1998. And we said our position changed once we had to meet the premier, and once we saw that we got a guaranteed agency shop as a union what? The union recognized our position needed to change. So where's the minister been? This minister been walking around with Burma on? When we're having this conversation, it's not heard. And you can tell me somebody's not said that to me. They have. So how could you say the BI's position is not changed? It's not true. This is somebody, and then he speaks about, oh, well, you know, you can't have people protesting and coercing the government because that's all wrong. Well, what were you doing when you was the president of BIU? What were you doing? Walking around with thumb on your shirt and we're protesting the House of Assembly. Now all of a sudden you're hiring money and we're all something else. And it's kind of interesting that the deputy premier is saying that this is not about one person. You see, once again, that got deflected. What? Look what the leader of the party is saying. The leader of the party is saying that the party supports the government's position. So they're supporting the minister's position, they're supporting the premier's position. So the issue of the 11th of, or just before the 11th of December 2020 is going to build on the history that the minister don't need to tell anyone why he never got back to the So everybody's going into the grave, not knowing exactly why the minister never got back. And I don't see how our Progressive Labour Party, how the party itself, the chairman, and all the members of the party are not accepting the fact that the minister don't have to tell the truth. And he, not just tell the truth, he should be held accountable for not getting back to the BPSU and the BIU on this matter. And if the BPSU wants to give the minister a pass for not getting back to them, fine. Why not give them a pass? We want to know why you never got back to us before this bill went to the House. So if the BPSU can't stand on the principle, I feel sorry for them and their members. I really do. It's a principle issue. A man's word is born. If I tell you I'm going to do something for you and I don't do it, I owe you an obligation to at least tell you what I'm going to do. So for the minister to say that the BIU's position hasn't changed, and look at the final point that I want to make about what the minister said to, I guess, to the media, about the media asking many questions. A shift in industrial relations is required. What does that mean? So we're going to shift towards you, and you're really thinking because you're not a minister of labor. He is the minister of labor. He was one of us. Now the chair is one of us to take us on. That's pretty pathetic. Because when you're one of us, you behave and obey your representative members. You want to make sure that the government was doing the right thing on behalf of your members. Now you're the minister. Once again, it's falling in line like little boys and little girls. Because if you don't do that, the government will continue this position of the act is going to remain unchanged. So you will be aware, you've got some certain members immediate that heard the conversations that we had with the deputy when they came out of the house. We were told by the police that they were still in there and that they wanted to have a conversation with us. I took that as encouragement because you want to have a conversation. I thought I expected something more than what we got. The deputy premier came out, I looked at him, he looked at me, and I mean, he to say something, and he didn't say anything. I said, well, I was told by the police that he wouldn't talk to us. Oh, well, yeah, our position has not changed. You could have sent an email that, you know, talk to him, the president of that. Well, I guess this is the time of day it is. We are in a space, as we said in our address to our members, that didn't think that we would reach this kind of impasse with the current government. I can tell you that this is the press statement from the chairman of the party, just the last two sentences. It is our hope that the BIU membership will encourage dialogue between its leadership. Listen to this, listen to this. It is our hope that the BIU membership will encourage dialogue between its leadership and the government to bring this matter to resolution. So when we sit here and say we look at our general counsel and we spoke to the executive board, let me just go and encourage the chairman, party chairman, Mr. Dawn Simmons, that you need to go have a conversation with your MPs who are doing things that the people of Bermuda didn't elect them to do. And if they can't fix it internally, then maybe people's gonna have to fix it for them. That's not a threat, that's basically what people should do. Just like the voted out of power, if the PRP can't do right by the people who put you there, the people should vote you out of power. Or maybe exchange MPs that you got and put some MPs there who are gonna listen to the people. You're not there representing yourself. Any questions?
Go ahead.
Because I have one other thing to say, but I won't entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Phillip.
Sure.
You mentioned this morning that Steve Drawing had managed to get an injunction. What would your position be if government and other private firms were also able to get a court injunction? Would you abide by that?
If they would have got an injunction yesterday or today, yes. But that was tomorrow, no.
What would you do?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, you were at Global House? You were at Global House when we spoke to
Sure,
the
yeah.
agreement?
Mhm.
Deputy Premier? Yeah, okay. So, I think what I said to the Deputy Premier is let's have this conversation now. It would appear that Section 87 of the Corn Act clearly states, and this is probably 87, 3. 87.3. Okay. So 3, a lockout strike or a regular action shoulder strike shall not be deemed to be designed to calculate or coerce the government. So what they're saying in this is that we can't have dispute, a labor dispute, and coerce the government to make a change to the law. So the Deputy Premier said that it's not a labor dispute. The lawyer yesterday, when they called with the court to get their injunction, said this is not a labor dispute. So what are we doing? It's not a labor dispute. We're not going to turn it into a protest against the government. A constitutional protest against the government and the labor and the law. Section 10 of the Constitution. Protection of freedom of assembly and of association. So we are going to invite our members and members of the public who would like to protest the changes to, or lack of change to Section 57 of the Act, to come and protest with us over this issue under the Constitution. That's your constitutional right. And I would dare any government to take away that right, or try to take away that right. That's the Constitution. And that's when everybody, just like they expect us to obey the law, we expect them to obey the Constitution.
The government might argue that okay, this is a protest. You've made your protest.
Yeah.
Why
You
can't
made our
you now
protest
return
what?
to work?
What's that?
You've made your protest.
Right.
And you know, today's march was evidence of that, and that was very high profile, obviously. And so now that you've made that statement, why do you have to feel that the protest has to keep on continuing?
Because I think when we look at the collaboration between the government and the private sector, and respectfully, not to be disrespectful, I don't care what the minister says. His actions are the actions of a person who is trying to do things to labor and control labor. That's all his actions. And that's just not my word. Look at all the members how they felt frustrated about the minister and some of the things they talked to him about when you were with us 3 or 4 years ago. Now it seems like you're completely changed. So it's not just my opinion. And certainly whilst I understand the public's concern that it would appear that this started as a 2-day shutdown, the government said to us it's not a labor dispute. We have a lawyer in the court that says it's not a labor dispute, and well, we even both up. Yeah, I'm accepting the fact, it's not a labor dispute. So that will mean that when we said at our press conference on Friday that we're issuing a 21-day strike notice, or 21-day notice of industrial action. Let me just clarify that, because I'll take my words out of context, because I saw affidavit yesterday that said that the BIU president says it's 21-day strike notice. I never said that in the press conference. And I went back and played the press conference. 21-day notice of industrial action. No, that could mean strike, that could mean rush the rule, that could mean a number of things. Right? I never said strike. So that 21-day notice of industrial action that we gave on Friday, we ain't gonna give no notice of industrial action anymore. Why? A protest. Under the Constitution, I have a right to withdraw my labor to protest, without giving any notice. Now, to defer to the employer, I'll reason say, look, there's a planned protest coming up tomorrow. I want to know if I'm gonna be able to leave. They might tell me no. I may say, well, look, I need to go for at least a half hour, or an hour, or a few hours. That's that person's constitutional right to say that I want to go and protest. And so whilst we had that position yesterday, I think the court decision, I think the government letter on Friday evening, and the permit confirmed today, that it's not a labor dispute. So we're accepting the fact. We're weak. Why? Because you're saying we're going to get 21 days notice of industrial action over here. We're going to get 5 days notice over here. We're going to get notices. Well, no, if this becomes a constitution, I have to give you notice. Strange how the people who are supposed to be so bright will find out they're not so bright.
In which case, are you still serving the 21 days?
No, the 21 day notice is taken off the table. No. Why inviting all of our members tomorrow who are interested in coming out to protest this bill to be with us tomorrow?
Including essential workers?
Well, I would say that the essential service workers should be, whatever decision they make should be in consultation with the management team to, this is not about, and I'll use the hospital as the example, this is not about putting people's lives at risk. We understand the country is still in the middle of the pandemic, so if the hospital is supposed to have, 25 workers on and working for the pandemic, we're asking for our members to at least adhere to that. But all the other areas that, where they are essential but are not really essential, like a piece of mail, like a few other things, maybe they could wait for a day or two, it's not gonna hurt anything. So in that regard, those are the kind of things we're talking about. And we think that's fair and reasonable under circumstances.
What about, for example, trash collectors?
I think the trash collector was picking up the trash today. They went out.
No, but from
Tomorrow? Should they come tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, if they decide they won't come tomorrow, they can come. Maybe the dawn days won't be Wednesdays, so maybe they go back Wednesdays and pick up, fill in that gap. Look, we've been trying to be very reasonable with the government, but if the government is just going to stand where they are and say, well, you know what? Why the government? And that would appear how they are taking this whole approach. Why the government? What we do what we want to do, and we're not going to listen to you. That's going to get them in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. And remember now, I want the government to think about this very, very carefully. So you may call an election in the next 2 years or whatever. The government, the PLP government, cannot afford to have 20% of labor not support them in a general election. Not 100% of labor, just 20% of labor. And if the chairman and the premier and the labor ministers and those cabinet ministers are not going to think about that, why should we think about them remaining where they are? Why?
That was going to be my final question.
Sorry, maybe I read your mind.
Well, I was just going to say there's been lots of calls today for Mr. Hayward to resign as the Labour Minister.
Yeah.
But
so we called for Michael Fay to resign one time, didn't you?
But under collective responsibility, it's the whole cabinet that is responsible for this decision.
That's why I said what I said this morning. I said that too. Did the media not hear me? When I spoke about holding the minister accountable for him not getting back to the unions, I mentioned the other 11 cabinet ministers. How come they're not holding him accountable for not getting back to the union? I said that this morning. I also said, how come the backbenchers are not holding the ministers come for not getting back to the union?
Yeah.
Well, I try to be clear when I speak to the media. And if you all just wanna bypass it like the government's doing, oh, well, they didn't say this, they didn't say that, fine, stop. We said, we gave our position has changed. And the minister ended up by now, well, hopefully he gonna listen to this press statement, because I didn't listen to all our press statements, so they can come back and respond. I know that. So you even told me that he didn't hear that we're prepared to give a worker in the bargaining who's giving 100% contribution a right to vote. I know he heard that. You even told me he didn't hear it. But our position's gonna change? Be truthful. Not. Any further questions? Sure.
Have you had any support or any of the backbenchers reach out to you saying that they support the union?
Well, without giving any names away, we've had about 4 or 5 of them support us on this issue. And I support them. They got the concerns. I got an email from one of them. He sent me an email, and he's very quite candid. He sent it. Premier's name was first. Then I think he had the deputy. Then he had myself. And he had the minister. And he told him, this is my position. I support the BIU. Made it crystal clear. And then, 2 sentences on, he had president of the BIU. I support you 100% on this issue of decertification, but I disagree with acts and Premier and Minister Green. Quite candid. I accept that. That's his opinion. It's good. I mean, did he want to put in there about removing the Premier and removing the Minister? Nobody want to put in there. But it seems like they were stuck on whatever position they were on, and they weren't ready to change. And it seemed like the 2 of them was driving. They both came here in this room. They didn't go back to the cabinet and say, look, we need a conversation because we just left the general council for 3 hours and we need to have a conversation about where we are. You just heard what I said that the minister said in front of the press conference where you got a chance to ask no questions whatsoever. I mean, I'm just sitting there and I'm just trying to figure out how does a government in the middle of a situation where they're taking on labor base and then I'm preaching asking not one question for the media. Not one question. That's mind blowing. I mean, you can tell me the media you weren't, I get frustrated that you weren't able to get the answer to one question. Because that somebody came late, they wouldn't let them do it because they came late. Well, guess what? You still wouldn't ask the question. Why? The media that wasn't late didn't ask the question. So you didn't miss nothing? What you miss? What, they were saying? Go play this other one somebody else's? Check. Any further questions?
Just to tie in on that,
Sure.
this government started with like limiting the press with questions at the press conferences to 4, and then they just canceled the press conferences, and at least the questions that I've put to them, they haven't answered it, and now they're not allowing any questions. What do you think that is indicative of?
Well, look. What's right what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. But you all see the night news from time to time. You see President Biden or somebody else taking questions from the media. Y'all allowed to ask 1 question, not 4 questions. No, why they've done what they've done now, I have no idea. But you draw your conclusion as to what you think it is. Any further questions? So certainly, whilst we do understand that this is extremely challenging under circumstances, that we have a labor government, going against labor. Just make sure blood boil as to how we ended up where we are. And for the minister to just frame it like, no, you also what we sent out on Thursday and Friday. You made the comparisons of other memberships or whatever, and the minister still stuck that if that person in that body is taking money out of their pay, then they should have a right to quit. I'm waiting for the day. It should be probably Marshall Deal, it should be Mr. Deal, who goes to the government and say, look, I'll come to represent these 3,000, these 3,000 individuals or group of workers were saying that they're looking for a right to vote in the next general election. What's that based on? That's based on all the deductions you're taking out of the pay and all the taxes. And all the taxes that they're paying. That's what it's based on. How you gonna tell them that? How you gonna tell them that? You can stay where you are. Do they appeal? Do they appeal all the way to the Privy Council? And do they appeal? But you can't. You simply can't just say, well, I'm paying 50%, and based on that, they should have a right to vote and a ballot for decertification. Look at this statement. This statement is you can't tell me that somebody didn't give respect to me. Send us these words right there. The PLP government represents all rights, not just organized rights. Well, you represent the whole country. You know that. But you also know not everybody voted for you. And we very said we never asked the government for preferential treatment, but this section of the law, section 57, was saying, well, there's some issues with making this right. And they're saying, well, look, we're just going to leave it the same as the year we had, and you should be okay. And we're not going to be okay. And you knew that. You knew. And it's disingenuous now for him to say that he met the union. First of all, the unions were telling him he wanted that change. That's what he's telling you. Subcommittee of 3 employers, 3 unions. BPSU, BUT, BIU on that subcommittee. And we took those proposed changes to the LAC. You can't make this stuff up. You can't. So when the minister keeps talking about these changes and how these changes, and I heard the Premier saying today, how these changes are gonna, increase, union participation or gonna be more beneficial to the unions. It was from the recommendations from the unions, not from the government. It came from us. And I detest how someone still continues to take credit for something they ain't done. Yeah, you passed the bill. Well, who gave it to you? Please do it that way. Please do it that way. 50% unions. The whole thing about free ride being up, and the whole thing about only one ballot now, a recognition ballot, and once the recognition ballot, automatic agency stuff. Came from the unions. It come from the government. Well, we take credit for what we did and for what we didn't do. People have that credit. But practically every area where labor was strengthened, it came from the unions. If there are no final questions, I want to thank you. Just see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock if you're coming here. And once again, just an invite to our members and members of the general public who want to come and protest with us tomorrow on Section 57 under the Bermuda Constitution, Section 10. Thank you.